Hi, it's Margaret, and thank you for joining me on this beautiful sunny day on the Gardening Me. Today, it's all about hellebores. I purchased a few hellebores a couple of weeks ago, and I figured it's time to get them in the ground. I actually made myself a little kind of rule, I guess, this year, and I think I made this last year as well, where I am not allowed to buy any other plants until the ones that I already have purchased go into the ground. So now that gardening season is starting to pick up and the garden centers are getting all their stock in and it's kind of time to do a little bit more plant shopping, I figured I better get these in the ground or else I'm not going to be able to take advantage. So anyhow, what I thought I would do today is, in addition to planting the hellebores, I am going to take you on just a very quick little tour of the hellebores that are already in my garden because most of them are blooming. I'm one of those people that was relatively late to the game when it came to hellebores. I think I got my very first one maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that. So yeah, but once you get one, you need to get more. So why don't we take that little tour and then I will show you the ones that I am going to be planting today. Now on to the ones that I'll be planting today, and here is the very first one. It's part of a series called Ice and Roses, and the variety name of this one is Carlotta. Look at the gorgeous flowers here with the burgundy edges. Oh my goodness, and look at the center here. Isn't that gorgeous? And even the back of the petals. I mean, this one has it going on. So that's one. I have another one here, also part of the Ice and Roses series. And as you can see, I've had it outside, as I said, for a couple of weeks, and these tall stems just couldn't handle, I guess, the wind in the area that I had it in. It's called Early Rose. Now, the flowers actually look quite a bit more lime than I've seen online in the photos, but that could just be because of how they were growing in the greenhouse. It's quite a different structure, this one, than the Carlotta. Still has that beautiful shading on the back. Then I have this one here. It's not flowering, but I will put a photo of what this one looks like on the screen. And this one is part of the Wedding Party series, which I have quite a lot of already in the garden, but I do not have this particular variety. And this one is Mother of the Bride. Now, all of the ones I just showed you are going in one bed, and this one here is going in a separate bed. This one is Tropical Sunset. And again, no flowers, but I will show you what it looks like on the screen. I thought it would look great next to this guy here because it has kind of a yellowy tint with that deep burgundy. So that is going to be plopped right in there beside these guys. This is the area that I will be planting 3 of those hellebores. And right now, actually, I have 3 lilies that are in here. And I am actually going to be moving those. I put these in the garden, I think when we first moved in. They've kind of been sitting here. They do flower every year, which is a little bit shocking because they really don't get that much sun here. We're on the north side of the house, and yeah, like they get a tiny little bit of sun maybe at certain parts of the year, but that's about it. So I've been meaning to move them for a very long time, and I'm thinking this is the perfect spot for those hellebores. So I will be moving at least one of them, this one right in the middle here, today, and the other two I might just leave for another time. So first step, dig that one out. This bed here really doesn't have very much in it at the moment. I have sort of been fighting a battle dealing with lily of the valley and sweet woodruff that basically went crazy. So I haven't really done much with it because I didn't want to start planting and then having to deal with bits of lily of the valley and sweet woodruff coming up in plants that I put in. But now I've basically been able to get rid of most of it. I would say 99% of it. So I'm much more comfortable putting things in this bed. And last fall I actually did put a few hostas in this bed because this bed is primarily shady. The drip here is all ready to go. It's just not hooked up to any of the plants. And I do have to mulch this area still as well. So all projects for this year. But I just wanted the line there so that at least that's one less thing I have to do. Now this is pretty big, and I'm not going to be able to take it out of there in one go. So I'm going to divide it up into maybe 2 or 3 clumps, I think. There's a straggler on this side that I'm just going to take out like that. I brought a bucket here so that I can put my pieces in there. And what? Maybe here, thinking, and here. Okay. So like that. I think this is still a little too big for me to deal with. So I'm going to take these guys out here, this little clump. And I'll divide this in half too. One thing I didn't take into account is that I'm left with quite the big hole. Now I will be adding some compost here, but it's only a handful or two. Maybe I can just move this around. One thing I don't want to do is sort of add really good soil in this area. I was actually thinking, oh, maybe I'll just grab some soil from my raised beds, but I don't want to do that because once I start doing that, then the plant's roots may not really grow out and go beyond that amazing soil because it'll want to stay where it's really nice and rich. So you don't want that to happen. So it's better just to have the OG soil that's in the site and plant directly in there without doing some big amendment of additional soil or even a ton of compost. And I kind of don't like some of the humps here. So I'm just moving some of the soil from areas that are a little bit raised and moving it over. I think we're good. Now, once I plant it, it may lower a little bit is what I'm thinking, because right now I just kind of fluffed up the soil. What I may also do is plant it a tiny little bit higher than the soil level, so that if it does sink down a bit, then I can just add a little bit more compost or soil. And if it doesn't sink down a bit, that's fine too, because then I can just mulch over the entire area there so that it's kind of level with everything around it. So I'm just going to make a hole here for my plants. Wouldn't it be nice if all of our soil was that easy to work with? This is very, very root bound. Let me see if I can mush it up a little bit. Oh my goodness, that's very root bound. Okay, so I mushed it up just a tiny little bit. These are very root bound, but I think it should be fine. Now, I actually created a little tag already to put in, and before I put my plant in though, I'm going to add just a handful of compost in there and another handful of just a slow release fertilizer and kind of work that into the soil, and that should be good. I think the level on that is actually good. And now I'm just going to backfill. There. Now I'm just going to put the label in. Now these are last year's leaves, and most of them are still looking pretty good. Maybe I'll get rid of a couple of the more tattered ones, I think. But otherwise, I'm going to leave them on because I've already shocked the plant enough, I think. And I just feel like if I start taking off all the foliage, I don't know if it would appreciate that. So I'm going to get rid of some of these larger tattered ones, but otherwise I'll leave the rest in place. These get about 18 to 24 inches wide. I am going to plant them closely together. So I'm going to go more towards the 18 than the 24 because I want a nice full carpet. I don't really want like individual plants. So I am going to go probably around here. What I'm thinking is I'll do that there, and then I'll do the third one kind of in the middle towards down here. I have a feeling I'll also have some soil left over when I backfill these other two, so I'll use that to top up around that first one. Oh, this one is much better, except for all the floppy flowers. Let's see how this one, oh, perfect. I think I might just cut these off, and they will make beautiful cut flowers, and I'll leave all of the foliage to gather strength, and yeah. Okay, so those two are planted, and so I'm thinking the other one I'm going to plant right in here. Now, right now, the grass line is right here. However, what I am planning on doing is kind of making it a little bit larger. Here we have a huge spruce tree. It's ridiculously big. And what often happens is this area here gets a ton of grass and you have to weed whacker it, and I don't know, it's just not fun. So what I actually want to do is expand this border here so that it's kind of going like this, but then it starts flaring out so that it goes like this, and comes towards this side of the spruce. So when I do that, this will actually be, this area here that's right by the grass will not be that close to the grass. It'll be maybe a foot or maybe a couple of feet away from the grass. Hellebores are one of those plants that I really do try to get their spot correct the first time, because they really don't like to be transplanted, and it does set them back quite a lot. I mean, if you have to, you have to, right? But it's one of those things that I'm always trying to think ahead when it comes to them in particular. Everything else I pretty much don't mind transplanting, or well, almost everything else. And I'll just throw it in. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I'll move it somewhere else. But these guys, I don't know. I'm a little more precious when it comes to that. So that is the plan. Now I do have some extra soil, so I'm just going to fill this one in a little bit more. For this one, I'm going to leave these leaves. Basically anything that's yucky and brown, I'm going to cut off. Okay, so that's done. Now let's go to the last one. So this one I'm going to put basically about here, I think. And it's a little bit close to the sedum, but sedum is super easy to move and dig up, so I'm really not worried about that. So yeah, that's where it's going to go. So here we are, Tropical Sunset, Carlotta, Mother of the Bride, and Early Rose. And that's it for today. So now I just have to go and figure out where I am putting those lilies and get them in the ground. So thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Bye.